begin. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hey, good evening. How's everyone doing? Welcome to the Turn Giants. We got Zach tonight. How you doing, Zach?
I'm great, man. How are you, Dave?
Oh, pretty good, pretty good. Still got this lingering cough, so again, I excuse myself if I smash my mute button, if I just hack up in the background. Just don't mind me. I'm still working on it.
Yeah, dude, it's been going around again. It like ripped through my classes, like
Yeah.
pretty. Like kids still have a cough and stuff, and it's like not COVID stuff. It's just like
Whatever it is, man.
yeah, it's been hammered.
Yeah, I did see the doc or whatever, the physician's assistant, whatever they
Right.
are. And they're like, yeah, nothing we can do. Just write it out.
Right.
Like,
And it's like yeah, I guess.
cool.
It's
All right.
It's like here's some lemon tea and blow your nose as often as you can. Right.
Because I was short on breath, right? Like even me just walking the dogs, it was like, oh man, like
Right.
it was a strain to go and do that, right? Especially
Right.
with the cold air. It's like, man, this is if I got to see a doctor if I can't breathe, kind of idea, right?
Oh, dude, absolutely, man, for sure. It's like, and that's just you, like, just checking up, making sure everything else is like, it's like, hey, I don't think it's this, but like, let's rule this out here. Like what's going on? And yeah, always better safe than sorry.
Yeah. So, anyways, they gave me another couple days off. I wrote it out for the most part, but it lingers.
Right.
What you can do. But one thing that you cannot get a doctor to fix is this financial situation. What what on earth can we get that will fix this? Man, what's your
Immense amounts of money.
impressions?
Well, just seeing all that stuff. I remember I was like, I think all that news started breaking at like 3:00. And I remember I had like just gotten off of work and I like wasn't on my phone, and then I had like taken a nap really quick, and I like woke up to just this firestorm of the board is gone, and I'm like, what? Like, what is going on here? It was just crazy, and then seeing all the reports and how we had, there was wiretapping involved, and we had basically been ducking what our actual financial situation was, and it was like a shock for sure. Like, and like part of me is like, okay, it's not, I don't want to say it's not the worst thing in the world. Like, it's bad.
It's pretty bad. Yeah.
It's really bad, but it's not like, a Farsopolio 6, you know what I mean? With Matt, because it purely has to do with like the financial side of the club and not like the sporting side of the club. But even it's going to have serious implications. I mean,
yeah, and that's the thing, we're not too sure yet, and we'll get into it if it has something to do on the sporting side or not. But
oh yeah,
I mean, so far it seems okay.
Right. Yeah. No, I'm still worried because I have no idea where this is going to go. And again, this is where Dash would probably be more useful than me. But like, like my idea of like, or what the financials are, whoever. Do we have a financials guy?
We don't have an official financials guide, sir. I've been ignoring all people's comments here.
Oh no, you're good. You're good. Oh, what's good? What's good, people?
But yeah, sir, we'll continue on here. We don't have Dash. Don't screw Dash. He's not here tonight. We don't got.
Yeah.
We gotta make it up.
Yeah, it's all good. No, it's more so than anything. It was shock. And just seeing the sheer numbers that are coming in, just with regard to how financially taxing the situation was, and like the fact that we were trying to make it not look as bad, which I'm sure a lot of that has to do with just like I'm sure a lot of that has to do with not lying to your stakeholders, right? Your shareholders, like letting them know like the actual financial situation of the club versus what's actually versus what the books tell you, right? It's a mess, man.
It is, and I'm not going to try to pretend to make any sense of it tonight. I'll probably just add to more confusion because that's what it is. As you start hearing more of the stories, the storyline branches off, right? It doesn't get any easier to make sense of anything. It just gets worse and worse. So having more information, I mean, does not help in some cases, right?
Yeah, right. Because if anything, it's almost even more overwhelming as I'm trying to make sense. Like, okay,
Yeah.
as the details become even more fine, you're gonna have to like spell this out. Because I'm not a financial guy. Right? I teach history. Like, I can make, you give me some definitions and I'll start to work some things out. But yeah, a lot of it is just financial and corporate speak, and I'm okay with it. But,
It's okay. We don't have to get into the corporate speak.
yeah.
Well, we're
So you don't
laymen
want me
here.
doing that.
Yeah, that's fine. We'll just go over some of the points,
Yeah.
and we'll try to make as much sense of it, right? We'll try to make sense of it together, hopefully, at the live chat as well. Let's try to make sense of it. This is kind of like massaging up the details, because anybody that at this point says they know what they're talking about, I'm calling BS, because honestly, man, like, come on. You may have a fairly good idea of what you can deduct from the information you have, but all the information is not there to really say one way or the other, I would say.
Oh, I agree.
So, anyways, we'll start with the first one because people did mention Cristiano Ronaldo.
Yeah.
So, the Bianconeri not only added 180 million gross in wages over 3 years, but also paid 100 million for him to arrive. Right. So, essentially, the Cristiano Ronaldo investment cost 280 million.
Right.
So,
yeah, and it's like, how much did that really?
That's a
how much did that yield for us, right?
Yeah, and there was the shirt sales. Now, I don't know if you can actually get the numbers on how many specifically. So, 7 jerseys got sold.
Right.
But I know some of that's recouped in that sense.
Yeah, sure. And we expect that, right? We wanted more eyes on us. We wanted more eyes on the league. We wanted to expand the brand.
Yeah,
right?
get the Twitter account, the Instagram counts, all that.
Right,
nonsense.
and you bring in CR7, that's a guarantee. Just with who he is, right? Whether you hate him or you love him, that attention is going to be there. Now and then going to the sporting side of everything, it's as we fumbled around and rechanged directions 3-4 times while we had him, that of course didn't yield itself in us going far enough in the Champions League to continue to make the money that we wanted, right? Like what we were kind of banking on. And that just comes back to bite us because now that is, that's just crazy money. Like, yeah, I can't even fathom it.
And that was something you mentioned there with the different managers coming through, and that was getting to the wiretaps because that's kind of one of the things we're getting into here, right? Right. Yeah, apparently there was blame laid on Agnelli that. And again, context, you can't say for sure who he's talking about was because which coach he was firing in this case, right? But he said you turned over 2 coaches, essentially, made 2 bad decisions. Now, that could have been firing Allegri first and then Sarri, or was it Sarri, Piero? It's probably Sarri for sure, because he's in the middle of it. But
I would assume, I'm going to assume that Sarri is absolutely in one of those the conversations there. Yeah. I think we definitely may have some regrets about either the hiring or the firing. Pick your poison, I guess. I'm not going to go into that.
We could go into whatever, man.
That's it. Just the whole idea of bringing in a manager who we thought was going to play this beautiful football, this attractive football, and we know the guy can do it. Whether it always pans out in results or not, well, that depends on who you ask. But we didn't give him what he wanted, right? And then by the time we were already getting what he did want, then we sacked him, and then we had to bring in, and then we brought in another manager, and now what does he want? Well, now we got to wait for the transfer windows, and we got to recoup finances. But we have these players that we're trying to sell on. They're not selling, or paying them way too much, and we're not going to be able to recoup what we've already paid them, right? So to get more money in to be able to give these managers the tools they need or the tools they would like, right? So a lot of it was just like being impatient, and because we were like, well, we only have CR7. How long are we gonna have CR7 for before he's, outside of his prime, which was arguably already out of his prime or falling out of his prime when we had him. I'm not saying the dude didn't do incredible shit when we had him, but but at the same, we weren't getting prime 2007 Ronaldo, or not 2007, 2017 Ronaldo. We weren't getting that. So,
but we got one of the largest Instagram accounts.
Yes. Oh, yes.
I mean,
we all know how far that takes us.
But that's part of the whole business strategy, and this is why the board is responsible ultimately,
right? And
on multiple levels, right?
Right, and the Turner Giants guys have definitely talked about that. That being an issue in as we've gone through this cycle of having Ronaldo, and just different decisions that were made. Now, COVID. Look, you don't really plan or anticipate to have a massive worldwide pandemic happen in the middle of this brave new world we're in, right? Nobody could have anticipated that. But you would think they would make decisions before that in which the team would be more financially sound. We really this was almost like the equivalent of putting all your chips on black and then it went red.
So and now this is another wiretap. Now there were so many, I didn't record all of them, but
Sure.
you're just jogging my memory of ones that I did hear about. But that was again Agnelli getting roasted because essentially he did put all his chips on black, and the market was fantastic. Right. And I mean, Juve, going to the final a couple times, just winning consecutive Serie A titles. Right. What was the next step? The next step was winning the Champions League. What do? You have to make that risky bet. Unfortunately, that was right on the doorstep of the pandemic, and of course, it all came crashing down. And they knew they lost that bet, and they tried to hide it instead of actually facing it. They tried to plug the hole in the sinking ship, but the leak was too big.
Right. It's like it's when you see people who are trying to take the bucket to scoop out the water, but then you actually look underneath the boat and half the boat is already underwater, right?
Yeah.
You're fighting against an inevitability here. And it was, here we are. What the hell do we do now?
Yeah.
Besides take it on the chin.
Well, I mean, you have to take it on the chin a little bit. In a sense, we're not, because Elkin basically blamed the board, blamed the individuals, saying Juventus itself is clean. Now, I think the board is willing in this case, in the attempt to save face as well, and to, with Agnelli, save his legacy, because it is a good legacy overall. If you look at the numbers, it's an insane legacy.
The fact that we won 9 straight titles it's
insane, man.
It's ridiculous. The fact I am so privileged to have lived through a time in which and become a fan, because I think I was explaining to you I started watching them right after they won the first one, because that was my first introduction to real Italian football, and to watch that happen, even I started to realize this isn't happen. This is a remarkable achievement. And I can never take that away from Agnelli or the board during that time period, or Marotta or whoever, for building that, and obviously all the players who were involved and the coaches that made it happen. But what we did is still simply remarkable, but we missed the cherry on top.
And we have to put into context as well. You can't just keep on going at the pace you're going.
Right.
You always need to improve on what you had.
Right.
So they did make that bet. I mean, it just goes back. It just came crashing down. We bet it's the classic movie scene, right, on the roulette table, and like
Right.
it's in your number, you know, so it's where you put the chips down, but then that last frame it just tips over and you lose everything.
Right. Like I feel like we literally had, it was literally like a dot, like you're throwing craps, right?
Yeah.
And it was literally teetering on like being between like the number you needed, like the number you bet on, or like, or like sevens out. And it went boom, and it just fell on the 3. And then you went 4 and 3 rather than, 4 and 4. You know what I mean? Like it just broke like that. And the biggest like variable in all of that was truly the pandemic. Like I don't sometimes I don't know just how like the gravity of that situation with regard to like the finances and the function of a professional football club. Like, I mean, not to like divert away from like Juventus, but like you have like this massive like historic club, right? And and we have obviously an egregious amount of money that goes through our club, in or around our club, and that's like we took a serious hit just from that pandemic. But like, I mean, you think about all the clubs, like, and I know, like, reading about clubs in England or like historic clubs that have been around for hundreds of years shuttering their doors because the pandemic. Like, yeah, they may not be of Juventus's stature, but they had always been there, and now they're gone because this pandemic just destroyed that. Like, the gravity of the situation can't be poo-pooed. You know what I mean? Like, it's big. It was a massive deal.
And if it worked out, he would have been lauded as a genius. And
of course,
I mean, he's already going to go down in the history. He's just going to have a really bad black mark at the end of it. I mean, he could have just been the greatest thing ever if this worked out. Unfortunately, it's how they acted once they realized they were out of the game.
Right. And that's where like the shame comes in, right?
Yes.
Right.
So that's what can't be excusable. So we obviously just lauded all the positives that that this regime accomplished, but the last several years. And this is how you see regimes rise and fall, right? You said you're a history guy, you said, right?
Of course.
I mean, like, pick one. Pick a regime.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, you go throughout history. Like, look, there are always going to be regimes that do remarkable things if they're, given the circumstances within history, that the circumstances that they're presented with. Now, you want to argue ethics and all that stuff. Obviously, you can get into the weeds about that a little bit. But in this case, it just, when you have so much weight on the shoulders, right? It's almost kind of like an Achilles heel. Like, all it took is the little nick in the heel, and that caused a fracture throughout the entire body, brought everything down. And that, well, I wouldn't say it was a nick. I would say it was like getting your leg torn off by a thing called COVID. So, but again, it's the way we have attempted to hide the situation. Rather than just being open and honest about it. And that's what's come back to kill us here. So. Yeah.
And, I mean, we can get into some more of the wiretaps.
Right.
Some of it's interesting. So some of it's a WhatsApp groups as well.
That's so interesting, man. 2020, 2021.
Exactly. I know. I did a really cheesy. The thumbnail was like the really old school with the tape recorder, the guy. Because that's what I think of when I hear wiretap, right? The old spy movies, but
right, exactly. Or like dudes out in like the van, like sitting there, like
But honestly, it's just a dude in a cubicle with a really stale coffee.
Right, and he's just like bored out of his mind, just like.
Yeah, that's literally all it is.
How'd I get into this job?
It's just some government workstation, the cheap monitor. The chair's horrible.
Right.
It's one of those, like, you work like this all day.
All right.
How much do you think that guy loves his job?
Oh, I'm sure he's having a blast. I can only imagine what it was like, though. Like, I don't know if you've watched the new Star Wars series, Andor, but like where
I haven't,
like,
no.
Well, spoilers.
Okay, the spoilers, guys.
Okay, briefly, it shows you like the inside of like this giant imperial center of intelligence, and it's literally just cubicles, space cubicles, right? Or Star Wars-esque cubicles, like stale, boring, and everybody's just zoned in on their little work or whatever. And like homeboy like walks in and he's just like, "This is my life now." Like, oh
Man, and I want to say as well, I can't think of which movie it is right now that's in my head, but it's some like 90s or no, it's got to be like early 2000s Tommy Lee Jones spy-esque movie where it's the same thing, where it's just like the cubicles with the people just like crunching away. It's probably maybe even like Men in Black. I'm sure it's one of those stupid movies. I mean, it's a recurring theme.
Right. Oh yeah.
It's obviously a thing.
Right, boring middle management job, not going anywhere, really boring.
Or who? Of course, I'm so bad at names on the spot. There, Snowden. I've read Snowden's biography, and that was his job at the CIA. It was just so mundane, and he's like, "Man, these guys are dumb." And he just started doing his own thing.
It's just information. You're just taking in information and being like, okay, where's this information get sorted to? Where does it have to go? Imagine being the guy who was like, wait, I got something. Like, the whole office is like, holy shit, exactly.
Yeah. Because just day in, day out, and the monotony of that job, like people just turn into drones. So, I mean,
you gotta love what you do, I guess.
I mean, he stole all that information under everyone else's nose because nobody gave a shit because they just had a mundane government job.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's like the fact that there was literally the apparatus is so big, right? Like you could literally, I mean, he was literally getting unbelievable amounts of information, like information that's like incredibly important in the grand scheme of things, right? But like, for them, they're just thinking like, oh, just status quo, same old thing. And he's like, nope. He's like looking at it, and he's doing like the whole like, I don't know if you've seen like the old like picture of like Goofy, and he's like,
oh yeah, it's like, oh what? Man,
he's like, oh, what on earth am I reading here? So I'm sure that's what the Italian authorities are feeling like.
And now that's interesting too, right? So when you get into the Italian culture, and there's another book I read, it's called The Italians. I forgot who the author was. He had one on the Spanish as well. He was an English journalist that had worked in these countries and just kind of like had a rhetoric on the cultures. It's a bit of satire or some sass. I don't know how serious he was, but he had a bit of slander, let's say. But anyways, that was one of the things that he said about Italian families that I thought was so funny, that they don't want their kids to have anything exciting, right? It's not like in America where it's like, join the army, right? Or go rock climbing, go do all this exciting stuff. They're just like, no, find a nice woman, settle down, get a government job, work your 8 hours with benefits, come home, have a nice meal, everything's okay. Don't stress. And I mean, this is a perfect example of it right now, that there's probably just so many government jobs in this country because of the social dynamic of what the country is, that they can have the manpower to just wiretap Giorgio Chiellini. I mean, that's the level that we're at.
I feel like that would be like one of the more. I'd be like, okay, well, at least I'm not like wiretapping some like some rando guy. Like I was like, okay, this is like a national hero here, Giorgio Chiellini,
and that's exciting. That's their top. That's the top guy on the job right here on Giorgio.
All right,
because you can't mess with the national treasure.
No, of course not.
This is very delicate.
Absolutely.
But
it's a delicate operation. I need my best man on it.
Yeah, well, probably. I wouldn't be surprised. But this is how mundane this actually is.
Oh yeah,
we're blowing it up in the media, saying, "Oh my God, look at how excited all these wiretaps." In reality, this is very mundane. It's what's contained within the information that gets exciting. So we'll start this one from Chiellini. This is the final proposal. We are missing 4 months of salary. 3 months will be paid in case we manage to finish the league. 2.5 months in the event of a stop. So that was the pandemic year. So basically saying, okay, we'll cut up 4 months' wages, but we're gonna get 3 back.
Right.
Right. So that's some of the information. This is part of the wiretap right here.
Right.
So that's where this missing money is proposed to have gone, right? Where they didn't put this payback per se onto the books.
Right. And it's kind of like one of those things where it's like, why did you feel like you I understand why you had to again, this comes down to like the business side of like, obviously there's stockholders involved because it's a publicly traded company. This comes down to stockholders getting involved and pricing and what the being open about what sort of business practices are going on. It's like, man, it's like a little bit of honesty here, just being like, hey, this is an unprecedented situation. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut 4 months of wages and then we'll give it back to you eventually. But like, they should have just been like, again, I'm not a finance guy, but I feel like, okay, you cut their wages. Look, these guys, I can't imagine are aching for money. And then you say, okay, let's go a little bit. Let's see if the situation changes. Maybe we'll get some money from the government or whatever to get us through this or whatever. And I don't know what the stimulus were, or if there was a stimulus in Italy or whatever. I don't know. I don't know exactly what the government did for them entirely.
Yeah.
Although maybe I should, I have family who own a pizza shop in Napoli. I suppose I can ask them.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, let's find out.
I can ask them about it when I see them. But
so hold on, they like Neapolitan pizziolos?
Oh yeah.
Oh man, because I'm planning on going down there. You'll have to give me their name.
Okay, well they're actually they're actually in Otidiano, which is about 45 minutes from Napoli.
Okay, all right. I'll still go if I'm down that way. I'll go.
Cute little town right on Vesuvio. I mean,
nice,
just beautiful. So
okay,
I'll let you know.
Right on.
But they I don't know what the situation was like with regard to like recouping money or if they were given any sort of like help, but like there had to be a way you could like get the wages back to there. Now like how would the players react? It's like, man, let's write it off as a loss, because like every other club is going to be taking a loss here. Like the loss is going to be substantial. It's a unprecedented like pandemic, worldwide global event. There's going to be losses.
But they just spent 280 million on Ronaldo. That was the problem. Is that they didn't have the money, they weren't getting the revenue, because that's the one bad thing with owning your own stadium is those ticket sales that you're used to relying on, you no longer have. But you still have to maintain the upkeep of that building. Whereas all these other places, the government owns them. Right. So the government's paying for it.
Right. The fact that we own the building and it's our stadium
it was a detriment in this situation. It's usually a plus because we're getting all that ticket revenue and concessions and all that stuff, right?
Right.
But in this case, no fans, just maintenance costs.
Right. Yeah. And that's another bone that you have to think about. Looks like Animesh just posted something here on.
Oh yes. Thank you.
Posted new accounts today, and net effect across 2 years about $1 million. Definitely not material impact. Old budget was 254.3 million euro loss. New budget 239 million euro loss.
Yeah. That is correct. Those numbers are correct from what I read.
So I guess, okay. So again, we knew there was going to be losses. So it's all of this comes down to how they handled the situation. It's literally all that comes down to.
Yeah, again, like it's a publicly traded company, so I don't know how they thought they were going to get away with it in the end.
I don't know.
It's part of that megalomaniaism, I suppose, right? When you get to that level and you're that big, at least within your field, right? I mean, he's not Elon Musk ego, of course, but
no, that's wholly different. That's
or Kanye.
Yeah, it's like out in the stratosphere level ego.
Yeah. The Kardashians, what have you, all those dudes. But you know what I'm saying? Like he's within his field, within the soccer world. It's still a pretty massive world. I mean, he's at that level, and I mean, you see it everywhere. Politics, businessmen.
It truly came down to the fact that this was an ego thing. This was an ego thing through and through, and it is what it is, Like mentioned that Cairo mentioned that other clubs did the same thing as well, so it'll get messier down the word. Oh,
Oh,
what's up,
Dash. Oh, hey, Dash. What's going on?
What's up, Dash? Yeah, and I have no doubt about that. It's not just us. I mean, let's
Yeah.
be real. Like,
And I actually have something here.
okay.
Just to let's throw Atalanta into this soup. I will never be able to get that letter out there because if we had to go to court, it will turn out that I made false accounts. That's Luca Procassi, the Atalanta CEO.
Right.
So like that, I mean, wiretap. They've wiretapped Atalanta guys, right?
Right. Right. Like, obviously the Italian government felt that it was necessary, I guess, or the Italian authorities felt it was necessary that they were going to start wiretapping these folks because they thought something was screwy. And with regard to finances. Now, I don't know, is Atalanta a publicly traded thing, like publicly traded company? I have no idea. I don't know if there's a company side of that club. I would assume there is, just because they're a professional club. But
That is a good question. I don't
So-
know what their status is.
right. So, how does that play into like the fact that, like, relative to the fact that Juve is like this massive public
Yeah.
entity?
And the thing is that people are recognizing, and I've heard this from a couple different sources as well, that people love to hate Juventus, but right now it's not just Juventus. Other clubs can get dragged down with it. You look back at Calciopoli. Basically, you look at like Calcio, Italian football,
Right.
was a force to be reckoned with. Coming late 80s, throughout the 90s, kind of died off in the 2000s. But what really killed it off is that Calciopoli deal.
100%.
Because all the big teams were punished at the end.
Yeah.
And nothing, that whole season, nothing meant anything. You had Juventus and Serie B. It destroyed the league. And we're just starting to kind of get back to things now. We're still not at that level. So they don't
10,000%.
want to, like, this is where the politics of the whole situation starts coming in, right? That's
for
why
sure.
nobody can say, politics are so messy. Like, how much are they willing to punish Juventus at the detriment of themselves?
Right. And the most staggering thing, and I'll never forget, and Just Juve did an unbelievable video for Calciopoli for Dummies, and it's like amazing when you go into it.
Did he? Was that today or?
Oh
when was
no,
that?
it's an old video. It's about 15
I miss.
Yeah.
Oh, I
It's
gotta
an
watch
aw-
that. Yeah.
It's an awesome video because it lays
Okay.
out the details and just how political that whole situation was. Like, who was in charge of overseeing the investigation? Who was the judge? It was not going to be before a jury. It was going to be before a judge. What was the judge's stake in the situation? He was an Inter fan, right? And then you had like one of the person who obviously controlled the phone calls that were being leaked, who was the person who controlled TIM at the time, the telecommunications company in Italy.
Who sponsors the league?
Right? Who
Does that have anything to do with that?
Was Inter's owner at the time? So like, and after that whole situation goes down, like those guys all left and got out of like the league out of the FIGC within like a year or two. Because when you look at the way everything is set up, that whole situation happens because Inter couldn't win anything. It literally was that Inter kept getting their ass whooped, despite the fact that they were outspending almost everybody, and just couldn't win. Milan beat them, Sampdoria beat them, we beat them. Like
that's sort of like the team on your sweater pre-salary cap era.
Okay, listen. Okay, let's not make this personal, man.
That's the New York Rangers for anybody that didn't catch that.
Yeah. So, and that's fair. You know what? I'm not familiar with the finances. And
they had the highest paid salary in the league, along with Toronto, before the salary cap came along. But New York couldn't even get into the playoffs.
Fair enough. Maybe it's just the maybe it's just the clubs I support. What do I do? But again, yeah, they continued went out and bought talent, but they also sold players that they for like dirt cheap that ended up becoming superstars. They were just mismanaged. They were just a badly managed team, and they just could not stomach the fact that everybody else was getting one over them despite all this money they were throwing into it. So what they do, they literally crushed the league in order to get themselves what they got one Serie A title and they got a treble. Okay, well, congratulations, your treble is tainted with shit. Like, and it is what it is. Like, and then they were in obscurity for a decade because then it all came back to roost because all those sponsors and everybody who had invested in the league and all those outside potential investors who wanted to invest in the league all of a sudden were like, well, I'm not touching that thing.
Well, you see that with Twitter right now.
Exactly. It's the same
Musk
thing.
just made a mess of it, right? So you have Apple. There's a big war with Apple now because they pulled most of their advertising and it's the biggest customer, right? So I mean, there's so many knock-on effects when you just come in and do these brash decisions.
Right, and like those things take time. Like, but I was reading this amazing. I was reading this awesome thread on Twitter, ironically, of them talking about there's this in business. There's this idea that basically once you burn a bridge with a customer because they feel like they can't trust your product anymore, the odds of them coming back to you are like slim to none.
Nothing.
So good. So even if Twitter screwed up, right, and they were like, okay, well now we got to like try and like, how about we just make things back the way they were, you know, and everybody who wanted it, you know, who wanted it back the way they were, they'll just come back. But they don't.
But all the influencers too, right? Like, it's not even like, oh, I'm gonna go tell all my friends at school now, don't use this product. Now you have influencers out there that will boycott this. People with millions of followers are like, no, I'm done, and you guys should be too.
Right.
Like,
now you got to think about the whole aspect of social media is like a whole nother massive variable thrown in.
As an owner of Twitter, this is sort of a fundamental you think you'd understand, but perhaps not.
Well,
Musk is not human, perhaps. Lizard people.
Yeah, truly a lizard person. But no, just going back to like, you know, Calciopoli, right? Like there were implications for every one of those actions. Inter wanted to win the league, so they condemned everybody. It's like almost there's a famous old, you know, Greek story about that, or like a Greek tragedy about how you basically gave up. It's like or like that scene from Avengers where it's like what did you get? Did you get what you want? Yes. What did it take? Everything. Like, what did it take for you to get that? Everything. It took everything from Serie A and everything that was good for the league was just ripped out right from underneath us because Inter wanted a title.
Yeah. There's so many different sayings and parables and whatnot, like to portray that message.
Yeah, the way all the details come together is shocking, and the craziest part about it is that like nobody was ever convicted of match fixing.
Yeah,
like that because basically they all just went after like the fact that like back in the day, like every team would always try and like talk to the FIGC about potentially getting, you know, referees that would maybe have a little bit easier going on them during, you know, certain matches or whatever, you know.
And who's to say it doesn't happen now?
Oh, you can't,
buddy. You
can't remove bias from a person's head.
Dash, because you're in the chat with the name of the ref that had the Inter bag, that ref the Inter game.
Maron.
Is it Maron? Okay, we don't need Dash. We got Zach.
No, I said Maron. I said Maron as in, oh my god.
Oh, okay, because I think that
slang,
is
sorry.
No, because Malone. That's my family. They say Malone, so it's close. But no, because I think there is a ref Marone, which is brown.
I believe there is a ref Marone. I think you're right.
Okay, whatever. We'll figure that out. But somebody will let us know, hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely. But and Marone.
See. Yeah. Right, it wasn't Arati, it was Moroni this time. Okay, so there you go. You were right.
Yeah, no, it was. Yeah, you can't deny that there's biases. Like, I mean, come on, just look at the way. I mean, not to jump out of Italian football for a second, but like, look at the way Michael Oliver has ever called Champions League matches against Italian teams. The dude is clearly not a fan of Italians.
Yeah,
but like but boy, oh boy, he loves some Spanish clubs though. But like. It is what it is, but like you can acknowledge that there's biases there and not assign referees based on that that there are biases there.
And
Like
what we
that's
saw,
what you do. That's what the oversight committee of like referees is supposed to do. But this was like an old tradition that they had been doing. Every team, Italian politics in particular are messy.
oh yeah, no, this is definitely a Italian political alley.
100%. So, like, the fact that Juve basically bit the bullet for the league, essentially. And, it's so interesting when I find that AC Milan fans are less likely to go out of their way to, are far less likely to go out of their way to condemn us for Calciopoli.
Yeah.
Because they got slapped almost just as hard as we did.
I feel like with Milan, Juve Milan's like, okay, we hate you because you're Milan, but that's why we hate you. Whereas Inter is like a blood feud.
Yeah, exactly. Well, like the way I've always viewed it is, I have a respectful rivalry for AC Milan. I acknowledge that they are a quality club that has always competed against us, and it's just a fierce rivalry.
Yeah,
Inter are just snakes. Cowards.
Well, they are snakes.
Garbage. Just total garbage. Like they are snakes for a reason. It's because they're absolute shit. Like from the ground up. Like, and they just couldn't admit the fact that their club was second rate compared to actual great Italian clubs. So
there you go. Milan got docked 30 points.
30 points. Yeah.
Yeah. And Milan, that's huge. That's 10 wins.
The reason why we got slapped so hard is because we were the winners. Because we were the powerhouse, and the FIGC had to make it look like they were cracking down hard on this scandal, when in reality there was no scandal. It was all coming from that bullshit newspaper that's super Inter-friendly. Yeah, it was all that. Like all that, because Animesh says leaking wiretaps into public domain to fan public outrage, because it was literally that. Like them putting it up on their front pages, and there was no merit to it whatsoever, but it got people talking, and it got people saying, oh, well, there should be an investigation for this, and blah, blah, blah. And it just boiled over to the point where it was, and then it just like laid the groundwork for presenting this investigation, right? Where you had a judge that was very friendly to Inter. You had the person who was supplying all of these supposed wiretapped information that was the owner of Inter, where things were conveniently not found for Inter.
Yeah, and this is why things. I want to go back to Animash's question here, and it is very, very good question. It's very critical to ask these kind of questions as well. How are these wiretaps allowed to be leaked into the media? And I don't have that answer, and I think we should be asking this question right now, because why do we even know this information? If this is a police finding, a police report, that's a confidential report.
Right. And I think I saw something about how a wiretap was leaked, or somebody was basically like admitting to something being wiretapped. And the person who was with them was like, yeah, well, you're clearly interfering upon, because it was like in the room, the interrogation room, where they were supposed to pull everybody out because it was a person and their lawyer, but you're not supposed to. Well, you're not supposed to wiretap the room where the lawyer and the plaintiff are. Yeah. Right. Like that's like serious grounds for like civil rights violation.
It's obstruction of justice.
Yeah, exactly. So why am I seeing a leak about this, right? Like why is there a wiretap going on that's coming out about this situation? Now, again, I can't remember all the details because so much of it has come out so fast. It's hard for me to keep up with everything.
Yeah, and there really is a lot. And I mean, we've already gone 45 minutes here, and I don't think we're going to go through all of it because a lot of it is just speculation. There is so much. We really could go on for days and days about this.
Right.
Yeah, if we can move on to the World Cup thing as well.
My biggest concern with this, before
absolutely. How
does this affect January?
So they're saying that they're still going to look for some backup, particularly that right back position.
Okay.
Just don't expect anything huge, perhaps like an SMS.
Okay.
So like they're going to focus on what we need right now, and that is a right back.
Boy, have I been yelling that into the void for the last 3 years. That and the left back. Oh my God, I've been saying that for years.
We
So
all have, yeah.
Yeah, we all. I say we all. Juve fans collectively have all been shouting for that for like the past 3 years.
And now this is what's interesting now with the shakeup and with having Allegri almost like a pseudo sporting director role now. Like he's almost a sporting director who's got a lot to say.
Right.
So
he's the guy. Like he truly is the guy now. Like it's like he's gonna go. Like he's gonna let Elkin know this is what I want.
Yeah, and he's probably not given much of a budget. I think it's reasonable to say 15 million to say 20 for a right back.
Listen, you can go out and find yourself some damn good studs for 5. I know that. Like you get it, you get it. I'm not saying they're going to be a world beater, but an improvement, 100%, and someone who can grow, 100%.
And we'll see. Obviously, there's Karsdorp, which could be really cheap. And see, now I don't have any of these ones written down because this was not the news. We're kind of backtracking a couple days.
Right.
Actually, here's one that we did get today, just since we're on it. Spezia have told Juventus that they must wait until the summer if they want Polish defender Jakub Kiwior.
He's apparently a stud.
Yeah, he's fundamental to the club staying up, so they want to keep him until the summer. So that's
Animesh. If Allegri is the proxy sporting director, prepare for a Deschilio. Great.
Oh man, yeah, love it. Maybe, man. We'll see. For all we know, that could have been an Allegri thing, or sorry, Agnelli. Right. Fact, I'm so glad that it's not going to be an Allegri and an Agnelli.
Right.
Okay, because it's so easy to mess that up.
Allegrinelli.
Yeah, it's like Brangelina.
Yeah,
Brangelina.
Exactly. Brangelina. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh man.
I thought it was very fascinating. Just to go back really quick, the reports about how basically like Allegri was like, "Yeah, I resign too," and they were like, "No."
Yeah,
let's not do that.
No, I've heard that didn't happen. I've heard a bit of conflicting reports. Yeah, it's one of those funny ones.
Who the hell knows, right? Like the only people who really truly know are the people who are in the situation right now, in the thick of it. So,
and one of those we should mention Del Piero, because I mean he's been in the news so much. I mean, yes, the fans, the media. This is like the positive side of the media now, just getting the fervor going on the Juve side. It's like bring back Del Piero, and it's so easy to make something big out of just a snippet of information. Or it's like, I mean, did he have a phone call with somebody from Juventus? Perhaps. Did he have a dinner with Trezeguet in Qatar, who also opened up and said, "I'd be interested if they call me"? I mean, you can start making all these links and really blowing this storyline up, right? I mean, yeah. Did he talk? He's Del Piero? I'm sure he's got an open line to Juventus,
right? Of course. And he had that interview where he talked about, he basically just laid out. He's like, listen, they gave me the details of the situation. It's a mess. Like, I'm going to support this club through and through. Yeah. We'll see what happens. Right. Like, it's a messy situation, but this isn't the hardest situation I've ever been with them. You know what I mean? So it's like, listen, I want Del Piero back. I would love to have Trezeguet back. I want these guys to come back to our club and instill this. There's something, and maybe it's the old romantic in me who just the loyalty and love for a club.
Yeah.
Outside of everything, right? Like, and I just, this is not just me taking a shot at like other clubs or soccer or calcio, but also just sports in general. Loyalty is something that seems to go by the wayside now. And now I understand players have to look out for themselves. This is their lives. This is their livelihood. This is their career. But like, listen, like like whatever happened to just being in love with the club for what especially with soccer, because it's so much more than just a brand. It's like
it's a community.
It's a community.
Identity.
It's a truly an identity. Like, and I want to see these guys come back who really have so much stake, and it just not like monetary stake. They have emotional stake.
Yeah.
Like this is it's in their blood.
Exactly.
Right? And like, yeah, you could say, well, that just makes them too emotional. It's like, man, maybe I need them to be a little bit emotional and not as much of a like.
And that's why that's why you have the board though. You balance it.
They're the business guys, but I need, and they're the ones who help the dudes with vision who have love for the club bring their vision into a reality.
Yeah, because he'd be like, oh, I want to do this. This will be amazing. Just like Agnelli was like, I want to bring Ronaldo in, and he sold them because Agnelli is a salesman. Right. They didn't have the number crunchers to say this is an unsustainable model. Don't do it. That's what they're trying to.
They did, and he left. Beppe Marotta was like, not a good idea.
Okay, yes. In this case, yeah, that was the situation.
He's like, that's not a good idea, and Agnelli's like, I want to do it anyway. He's like, all right. Well.
So and there you go. I mean, there's been talks of getting Marotta back as well. All these names are just going to get swirled around.
That would be insane, actually. Imagine if Beppe Marotta comes back and somehow, some way, eventually Antonio Conte comes back. Like, I'm not saying that's going to happen, or like comes back in some way. That would just be like, it'd be like, you had to go and taint yourself. Like, I know a job's a job, but you could have gotten any other job.
Sometimes, too, it's the challenge to see that dumpster fire and be like, I can fix that.
Oh, for sure.
Watch me. Hold my beer.
Yeah, we all know Inter was absolutely a dumpster fire. That's for sure.
And in our situation, I mean, we're the dumpster fire now. So this is when you do get guys like Marotta and Conte that will be like, hold my beer. I got this.
Right. Exactly. And I want you want guys with vision, and you want guys who really have who want an investment in this club beyond monetary or fiscal gain, or even gains in just like I don't know. Well, especially in like a branding standpoint. I understand that's a big part of it, but honestly, man, like when it all comes down to it, I want my team competing on at the very highest level. Like, this is fucking Juventus we're talking about, man.
But no, here's the thing, and they do have this. Maybe they need to work on it and the structure of it. But you have a marketing department. You get them to focus on the marketing. You get your sporting guys to focus on winning trophies.
Exactly.
I mean, they don't have to necessarily overlap. All that has to happen is, hey, you're wearing this warm-up jacket today.
Right.
Because that's what the marketing department decide. Right. There shouldn't be this big issue from one side to the other. People throwing hate on the logo and all that. I mean, it should just be separate. It should be like church and state. You keep them separate.
And I respect that. For me, it just feels, and I'm not gonna lie, I kind of like the new logo, but there is a bit about it that feels, and it's following a trend of artistic minimalism.
Yeah. That's absolutely it.
And some of that works out well for some teams, but for us, I don't know. It feels stale. It feels what's the word? Sanitized.
It does. And that's from the perspective of a fan that has an emotional attachment to the team and what the logo was, because there's a nostalgia with it. I mean, we keep on getting this logo talk so much.
And that's a great point. That's a great point, because I'm a romantic.
Yeah, and they're
not marketing to me.
And
I know I'm gonna bend myself backwards for this team. So
yeah, absolutely. And now I have a slightly different perspective. It's just whatever online course on like logo design and whatnot, right? But I learned the fundamentals and how to make logos, and I've designed a couple things here and there. It's it's just so basic design. You look at, and I actually showed this one time on one of the lives where I had the Starbucks logo from the 70s up till now, how it becomes more and more minimalist. Because once the brand is recognized, you don't need to say who you are. So I have this the Adidas thing right now. Have you seen with the new jerseys how they're saying that the Adidas isn't going to be there?
It's just going to be like the three,
because everyone knows what it is. Just like Nike. Nike doesn't
put a check mark on it.
Yeah, you don't have to write Nike. You have an apple with a bite taken out of it. You know it's Apple.
Right. And you establish it. You get so ingrained in the zeitgeist, right? That people just know who you are instantly by an image. And that's like the power of branding, right? Like that's what you want to do. That's the goal.
Yes. And now you're marketing. So people like me and you, they don't necessarily care if we don't like the new logo and we want the old one. We're not going to quit the team because the logo changed. But perhaps they open up and they refresh their branding to bring in that new generation of fans. Right. That's what they care. That's what marketing is. So we can sit here and bitch about it. Our opinion probably doesn't mean a whole lot in this situation.
No, because I'm an old guy, and they're trying to appeal to the Gen Zers, and they want to bring the new generation, probably the generation of kids that. And Dash, you make a good point. I think they do, but branding aside, you also got to play football that's attractive. And
yes, and that's why you need to have those two departments and focus on those separately, right? So
separate entities towards one common goal.
Yes, and that's how a corporation works. You have to have certain people at the top that communicate, so there isn't like that tension, right? But you don't need, in this instance, the guy that puts the names on the jersey. He doesn't need to know why. I don't know, sometimes what the black ban for women's violence this week or this or that. His job isn't to question why that goes on or, maybe I should put it here. No, he gets told that's where it goes because it's not his job to decide. His job is just to put it on the jersey, move it on, done. Like you got to stay in your lanes, essentially, right? Because in today's day, that's just how corporations are structured with specialists. That's why we pay people millions upon millions of dollars to play football because they are the best 0.001% of people that play soccer in the world.
Yep. So
that's what he does.
right. And that's so funny. Like that. It's so interesting. Like just hearing you say that because I had to like remind when Portugal was playing today and I turned the Portugal game on in my classroom. Because I've been spoiling my kids a little bit. I've been turning on some football, and they're watching the game, and they're literally okay. Hope nobody is watching too much, but like, I'm at not from my area. School I go to, they're a little bit of country bumpkins. You know what I mean? Yeah. Not a lot of soccer. Now it's changing. Not a lot of their knowledge of soccer is not great.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to change that.
All right. Nice.
And like you kind of had some country bumpkins who were like, I just want to see Ronaldo. And I'm like, guys, there are 5 players on Portugal that I'd rather watch rather than Ronaldo right now. They're like, well, Ronaldo's the greatest. I'm like, well, he's the best in the world. I'm like, not anymore. But at one point he was, and he's an iconic player. And like, I can understand you want, but like, they'd be like, I don't want to see anything else. Just show Ronaldo. I'm like, just go watch a compilation of his moves then. Like, bro, like this is just enjoy the sport. And now I have some kids who are like really smart and like really like catching on to it and enjoying the games and like want to learn more. Like I was explaining offsides to my students, like, and explaining like how that works. And
that's like the hardest thing to explain to an American.
Right. They're like, and honestly, I just used a football analogy. I was like, well, what happens when you jump across the line when you're not supposed to? They're like, it's offsides. Right. Well, in this case, the ball isn't stopped necessarily, and then I drew them the line, right? And I was like, if you pass the ball and this guy is behind this line, it's offsides. But if you pass the ball and you're before this line and he's running like a wide receiver, he's onside.
There you go.
And they were like, "Oh, it's not that difficult." I'm like, "No, it's not. You just
Nice
you haven't been
analogy.
exposed to it." So yeah, and that's just exposure.
Yeah, for
And,
sure.
But yeah, they were just like, "I just want to see Ronaldo," and I'm just like,
But that's the power of marketing. I mean, goes back to his
exactly.
and his own
Right.
personal marketing. He's got like 200 million. We looked it up the other day. It's like 200
it's some
million.
egregious number.
Yeah.
It's like
Or it's 100 million on Twitter and 600 on Instagram.
on Instagram, it's
stupid.
They're like 700 million people follow Cristiano Ronaldo's accounts. I'm like, could you imagine? I'd be like, leave me alone.
I know, but that's why people are celebrity, because they want it. They take it on.
Yeah, especially in the U.S. There's McKenny Juventus. Yes, there are. Yep, and that's good. I would
Nice.
Look, I not low key. I really love Christian Pulisic. I've been watching him since he was 17 years old.
Oh, nice.
I think he's a dynamite player. The problem is, man, he just can't stay fit, and I worry about him, especially with the way J Medical has been the past couple of years. The dude never get out.
So many players, though. Everyone that we're linked to seems to not be fit. Now, the question I'm starting to ask myself: are we just looking at unfit players, perhaps because they're a bit cheap or whatever, or is just the way the game is played today because of fixture congestion that these players are just eventually all get hurt?
That is a big part of it too, and people need to understand like the level of load that these players experience now is not nearly what it ever was. Even in the last 10 years, the level of load that these players are having now is far and away way more. So like you have to expect that like injuries are going to occur. Maybe guys that 10 years ago wouldn't have been as injury prone are now considered to be more injury prone. But it's like once an injury occurs, you can't just magically speed it up and like get rid of it. Yeah, no, Dash, I think you're right. Like, but like once a niggling it, like, yeah, so like some players unfortunately just are more injury prone in general. But like, listen, like I the way I see it is like it's all about management, because if you look back at like Aaron Ramsey's leg break, and that dude could come back and have like the career he's had, like anybody can do it. Like, because that dude's leg break was insane.
Yeah, most players playing 50, 55 games this season, and that's typically what an EPL player does, because they have 2 cups as well, right? So if you're playing in all 4 of their competitions, I think you can play 55.
You have EFL, you have FA, you have
Carabao.
Carabao is EFL.
The FA, yeah. So there's a
FA, and you have, if you're playing European football, and then you have your league.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like the level of football, the amount of football that people are playing, and this comes down to like the whole like money thing. It's like how much football is worth it, because what quality of football you're going to get when 3/4 of your or half of your players are like struggling to stay. Like you're going to have to expect that it's going to be a reality.
And this is the argument I have with a lot of people in Canada now, because again, especially where I am, it's all hockey where I'm at. Very very little soccer, but you try to explain to them, because all people ever watch, and just like me, you probably have the similar story, right? You start with the national team before you get into a league team. Most people with like a descent from a football nation tend to start that way when they live in a place like US or Canada.
Right.
So, I mean, oh man, I'm just losing my train of thought here. What was I going?
We're talking.
Just completely lost it.
Load of.
Oh yes, yeah. I mean, sorry. Okay, so by the time you're watching the World Cup, and you think this is the best soccer football in the world, it's not, because they're so worn out, and they're just like, oh man, I gotta play in the middle of the summer in a place like Brazil, for instance.
Right.
Or now you're in Qatar.
World football is a wonderful spectacle.
It is
not the highest level of football.
No, and people don't understand that, and that's what they're judging a lot of it on. And they play very defensively, a lot of the teams. We've seen the amount of connections to Allegri ball. And it's like, guys, like, don't judge.
They have to, in a way, they have to. They have to manage their fitness in a short amount of time. They're playing X amount of games, and most of them are just exhausted anyway. And Animesh is spot on here too. When I see that, it's like, part of it is absolutely incompetence within the fitness staff.
Yeah, but I'm saying
It's-
the ones that were linked with, right? Like it seems
Right.
every other player is injured as well.
Is injured or injury prone. Yeah, that definitely goes to with regard to finances, I think, as well. But like, you know, being able to get like a cheaper deal because the player has a history of injury or happens to be injured and is not active right now.
Well, the problem is you pay what, 100 million for Holland, Mbappe, whatever. I mean, they're probably worth more now at this point, right? But you pay the 100 million for that top player, or you pay 50 million for somebody that's slightly better than the guy that's 25 million.
Right.
So
It's really a crapshoot.
Yeah, it's difficult, and you're trying to find the guy that fits into your system as well, into that depth that you need. It's a lot harder.
Yeah, there's a reason why I'm not in football and managing football, because you know what? I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
Yeah,
there's so many variables. Would you like that? Oh my god,
Kvaratskhelia.
100%.
What do you like that Kvaratskhelia from Napoli at Juve if Napoli are willing
We
to
were
sell?
looking at him.
He's looking. I mean, he's looking good. It's hard to say no at this point.
Paratici was looking at him?
Was he?
Somebody was looking at him in like 2018 or like 19.
Yeah, but we've been linked with Holland. Who else? We've been linked with so many big names that go to other clubs.
Now, listen, did I expect necessarily? I thought that Kvaratskhelia would be a good player. I thought he would maybe take some time to grow into the league. Could be a really effective player, but he's blown the doors off. Yeah. I'm like shocked.
And really at this point, does it continue? Does he have the staying power? And I mean, that's when we'll really see his stock. And I mean, yeah, how much money would they make off him? Would they sell him, or would they keep him as their next insignia in a sense?
Yeah. Let's say how much they Sarri wanted him.
Sarri wants him, so there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, he would be good with Sarri.
I remember that us being linked with him, and I was like, I have no idea who this dude is. But you know what? If he comes, we need new blood, because it was 2019 or whatever, and I knew we were getting old. I was like, we need young blood. Like if we bring him in, throw him in there. Let's see what happens. Like at this point, and we were winning leagues like it was like I drink water and or Peroni. And it was like, hey, like we have to start refreshing the squad. Like we're probably overdue. The fact that we haven't refreshed the squad as much as we hadn't, I was like starting to become a point of concern. Like we need to bring some young bloods in. And hey, like I think he's a wonderful player. I think he's fantastic. He's explosive. You want to know what I like about him the most though? The dude's gritty. The dude wants it. The dude just battles, and you gotta love that. Like, especially as like a Juventino, like you gotta respect that.
Well, it's Chiesa-esque in this sense, like similar profile.
Right. Oh yeah, dude, Adamesh. Yeah, I think Illing Jr. could do it if he stays healthy. If he continues to play the way he does.
We got news
again. Yeah. Did that contract go through?
Allegedly, the contract's through till 27.
Oh yeah, I love that. I love that. Look, we've had him for a while. We pulled him in when he was even younger than he is now. Dude, he's still a kid. Again, it comes down to like a lot of it comes down to attitude and like obviously performance is a big role, but like the dude just seems hungry and he's got that fight. And I feel like Juve has forgotten for a few years, forgot that fight when guys like Chiellini got a little bit older, and then we lost like Mandzukic, right? Like guys who could just battle.
I'm going to argue as well that there's less of those gritty guys out there these days because life, especially in Western Europe, life's comfortable these days. Let's be honest.
Which is why it always makes me happy when I find the grit guy.
Like, exactly. And I love that.
Right. Like we went out, we have some real grit guys now, and that I want to see more of it.
And I've never liked the Dybalas per se. I've always liked. I mean, when I see Locatelli going for slide tackles, it gets me going.
I love. Don't get me wrong. I love a little bit of flash, but I don't want our team to be all flash.
No, you have your one or two flash guys, but then the rest, I want I want the guys like Locatelli that are just going to grind it back.
Right. I want him to ping a 50-yard dime, and then when the ball comes his way and somebody's streaking at him, he just crunches him.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
smashes him. Like, I love that. Mwah. Beautiful. Beautiful.
And if KF was here, he'd be all over the slide tackling from behind, taking out the ankles. Oh man. So okay, we didn't quite go over all of it. We've got a lot of it. Also, I'm just gonna put a caveat on Del Piero. I'm gonna say January 18th is probably the earliest date, just because of when the board sits and decisions being made. So just hold your horses. Del Piero's not yet. Yeah. But man, we've already been going for an hour and 10 minutes. I want to get into the World Cup stuff.
Let's go, baby. Let's go.
We got to do our predictions. Okay, no. There we go. Okay. So, World Cup predictions. That's going. What's going on? I broke it, guys.
You broke it?
I want to make it bigger, but it gets awkward. Oh man. Okay. Anyways, we'll talk about it. Okay. Netherlands versus the US. Is it? Well, you're American, so biased right away. But who do you have?
Honestly, as a betting man, and I am a betting man, I like the US at plus 330 odds. I like it a lot. Couple reasons. I don't think their back line is as good as people think it is, especially with speed. Mm-hmm. US has speed. If the US plays at a pace that is going to trouble a guy like Van Dijk, ever since he broke his leg,
he's not good anymore, really.
He's not looked the same player. He had those like 2 or 3 years where he was a baller, really was. He doesn't look the same player ever since he snapped his leg, and I understand like that's going to take a lot of a player, but he seems pensive. You know what I mean? Like he seems like he second guesses movement. You know what I mean? He's not the same. I don't expect De Ligt to start either. That would be my De Ligt is fast, and I know De Ligt is fast, so that could be a problem. Apparently, there's some flu that's going through the Netherlands squad right now.
Is there? And I mean, I know all about this flu.
Yeah, and it's going around. It really has.
I mean, I'm coughing right now, so
yeah. Like Dash just said, like I think that when you have guys like man, I'm hoping like maybe Gio Reyna, you got Aronson, you got guys coming out of both the midfield and the forwards who are fast and can make an impact, and Pulisic is good to play. I think this Netherlands side is up to be upset. I'm not sold on them. They haven't looked great. They got through, but their competition that they played really was not that strong. I mean, Qatar was a joke. And Senegal was a good surprise, but they're no world beaters, and they gave them a fight. And Ecuador, like I think the US here, I think they started slow. I think a lot of that was just them getting into being at a World Cup. And adjusting to that pressure. I agree, Dash. Absolutely. I think the U.S. midfield is underrated. I think the U.S. is going to steal it here. And if, hypothetically, you got guys like De Jong apparently is not totally 100% well, I mean, that's their bread and butter, is having a guy like De Jong in the midfield. And if he's not 100%, I think the U.S. is going to steal it here.
They could. I know it's spit out you can kind of see it behind my my guitar there. I have my Edgar Davids Dutch
one of the
jersey.
Goats. Truly a goat.
But the Dutch version, of course.
So
the Dutch have always been one of the teams I've supported. I've always liked them. I don't know. I would still put my money on the Netherlands.
No, I have no disrespect for the Dutch at all. I think they have a lot of talent in that squad. I'm saying there are things that the Dutch are experiencing or they have going on right now in their club or in their team that I think the U.S. with their pace and their vigor will beat them with. Now,
Perhaps.
the issue with the U.S. comes down to, do they take their chances?
Yeah,
They
they got
have
no
a
finish.
problem with that. Absolutely. They need a guy like Pulisic to come through. Or like Weah to have a big game. Or like Sargent to play well.
To not suck.
Yeah, well, Sargent has played well, but like I don't think people really kind of looked at him to be like an out and out goal scorer, and he's really not that guy. I think he's just like a really good hold up player.
Yeah, maybe
he's a gritty player. Like I think he does a lot of dirty work, like Giroud does. Now I love Giroud. I'm not gonna lie, I love Giroud.
But that's the North American style, though, right? They don't have that technical ability. That's why they get like Bernadeschi and Insigne for millions of dollars.
And then Insigne looks, and Bernadeschi looks like prime fucking who the hell knows what. Maradona running through the midfield, you know what I mean? and that's fair, but I think I do think that the U.S. is going to pose them a serious problem. Yes,
it'll be tight. I think it'll be a good game regardless, but I'm just edging. It's an edge towards Netherlands for me.
That's fair. Honestly, I think this game is likely to go to extra time.
It could.
I think it's going to grind, and I think it's going to go to extra time, and then
1-1. 1-1 extra time.
I think 1-1 extra time. All right, well, I'll take that. I'll give it to you.
All right. Okay. Let's move on then. Dash is our tiebreaker, being the other Yanks shit.
Right.
You guys can tiebreak us here as well in the chat. Sartak asking about Kim from Napoli. He's looking good for Korea. And Benucci isn't getting any younger. Again, dealing with Napoli, though, I don't know how realistic that would be because they just picked him up this year as well.
Right.
So they wouldn't even be able to move him on, I believe, until the summer.
Right. And again, the impressive part about Kim is how quickly he's adapted to the league.
Yeah,
he's
a monster.
Are the Napolitan even missing Koulibaly at this point?
No, I don't think they are. It's just like how we're not missing Delict.
Right. Like, no, you guys went out and bought a player who's just as much of a beast, and maybe perhaps in a way that might be a little bit different. Maybe you can't ping a pass like Koulibaly can, but that's okay. You don't want him. You don't need him to do that.
No, you need him to defend, and that's what he's doing.
You need him to defend like his life depends on it, and he's damn good at it.
So that being said, let's just jump down. Brazil, Korea. Is Kim good enough to defend Brazil?
I don't think that back line of Kim, and Kim.
Yeah, I know. I love it.
Right. With the goalkeeper Kim. You're just not gonna.
You can't.
I think the battle is going to be lost in the midfield, and I think once you have those guys come running at you at pace, you may be able to stave them off for 70 minutes, but
and they rested as well, right? Like Brazil, Spain, as we'll discuss. I mean, these teams rested.
Spain really didn't rest, which is kind of shocking.
I didn't watch the game, so I couldn't say. Yeah,
Pedri and Xavi were still out there.
That's a good point. Brazil definitely rested. They actually wanted to lose so they could play Korea.
It probably wouldn't surprise me too much.
Because otherwise, who else was it that they were going to play?
Because if it's not them, they'd be playing
Portugal. Yeah. So they purposely lost so they would play Korea or Uruguay, whoever would have came through there, knowing that Portugal had.
Yeah,
see? So Brazil definitely threw that last game.
Yeah, I think they play. Korea got had Danny Alves, 39-year-old Danny Alves to contend with, and I'm not taking anything away from Korea because they they fought really hard, and they earned that victory. But it wasn't a full force. It wasn't a full force Portugal, and a full force. If Brazil's coming full force, I don't see South Korea doing
No,
beating
that's an easy one for us. Of course, there's always the upsets. And Dashing Spain tried for the win. I mean, I
think they did. I think they did too.
The past couple days, I couldn't really watch a whole lot. I'm sorry. I'm a little I'm just making stuff up there.
That's no, you're all right, man.
I've been in school myself, so
Yeah.
I've had to do some learning.
Of course, brother.
I did have it up on. It was funny. The lady beside me in the class, I didn't know anybody in this thing. Just general safety nonsense you got to take, right? So
Right.
she knew that Canada was playing. I guess her job's like fitness, whatever. Works at the gym, something like that. So she was obviously into sports in some regard, and she just comes over to me and she's like, "Do you watch soccer?" I'm like, "Yeah, I watch soccer."
Right.
It's like, and I put it because I pinned the scores on my phone, so I can at least just unlock my phone and look at the scores.
Right.
It's like, yeah, I watch soccer, and then I turned the game on, put it on the desk, and we had like the name tag, so I just hid the phone behind the name tags and we were watching. But the reception was so crap that it cut out every few seconds. It couldn't.
My god.
Yeah,
that was driving me nuts, dude. I'd be like, oh God, why do you do this to me?
Yeah, it's bad. It's just a bad spot. But
Right.
anyways, yeah, let's move on. Yeah, I'm in my 30s and still watching the soccer match at school.
But dude, I mean, honestly, I do it. I mean, I do it even when I'm at work. Like, now the problem is that they've like firewalled everything at my job.
Yes.
So like even like I used Footy Bite, and Footy Bite like wouldn't work, and I'm like, oh, dude, you guys are killing me.
That sucks.
Thankfully, Fubo TV hasn't been blocked yet, so I'm all right there.
Nice, there you go.
That's so clutch. I'm surprised it hasn't gotten the bullet hasn't been bit yet. But.
I love when they haven't figured it out yet.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping and praying it lasts at least another month. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Paramount Plus thankfully hasn't been blocked yet either. So
nice. So Dash, how about the Chinese or the Japanese? Actually,
you might have offended a lot of people. No, I'm kidding.
Well, I mean, there is legitimate sporting news for the Chinese today, and that is due to the COVID issue that still exists in China. The Shanghai Grand Prix will not take place next year for the third year in a row. So there is your Chinese sporting news for the day.
That's a bummer.
It is, but I mean, it would have been 24 races now. It's too many races.
Dash, I called it, man. I had a feeling Japan was going to win this game, and I won a nice little pretty penny of money on the one.
Yeah, so Japan, Croatia. Now, we need to address this, how Canada failed to post points completely.
Yeah.
Morocco wins the group.
Morocco looks good.
And Belgium is down there with Canada, who should have honestly beat them in that one match.
Uh-huh. Yep.
What a group. That, I think, is the most interesting group. So here we have it.
It was fascinating, man.
Croatia, the number 2, I'm going to now say the tournament's black horse, because I don't think Korea's got enough of it. So I'm putting the black horse status on Japan. Who wins this one?
Now, we're going to go back to... I used the random Arabic. Dude, Sarthak, can you hook your boy up with some links? Because that Arabic commentary is awesome.
Yeah, it's
those
exciting.
clips of it's so exciting. Hook your boy up. Yeah, man. I think Japan's gonna beat Croatia because Croatia relies on that passing with that middle three.
Yeah.
With Modric and Brozovic, and Japan have gotten real good at picking their time, knowing when to turn up the dial, and attacking. And I think that age of if Japan can go after a pretty young Spain and do it, I think Croatia at their age and with Japan's, I think I'm gonna throw an intangible in there. Their belief. I think Japan's gonna win.
Dash. Japan can win games with 90% possession. I mean, this is entrenched Japan. This is like World War II Japanese warfare. Just entrench
Dude,
and weather the storm, and we will counterattack in force.
dude, they look good. Like they have such an understanding. Like when I was watching them and just their organization against Spain, it's so sharp. I think like 2006 Italy is looking at them and saying, "Well done, lads." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they're saying bravo because they're so organized. Everybody knows their role. Nobody gets too ahead of themselves because they understand that one slip can break down, could cause a serious problem. And their goaltenders come up huge. Like, man, I think Japan look really good. Like,
Yeah.
just really strong.
And I'm gonna have to agree here. Japan do look really good. Croatia, I mean, they just scraped through because Belgium
Yeah, because Belgium couldn't score.
and Canada, unfortunately, just like America, all the North American teams, they had problems with finishing.
Yeah.
So Croatia, and now we just said it was the most exciting group, but it was exciting because it was tight, not necessarily because teams performed the way they should have.
Yeah, right.
So Japan, I am choosing as well. I don't think, and I've always said this, Croatia's good. They can definitely advance. I still put Canada in second because I had to believe, but I mean here we are. They are in second, Croatia, but they don't have the legs. So
No, I think you're right. I think you're right 100%. And again, that Croatian side is a little bit past
it's past its prime.
their prime.
Best before date.
Right. They're past their expiration date, and it is what it is. You know what I mean?
And dark horse.
I'm not saying they can't win this game, but yeah.
No, of course.
Japan is they're organized, their tactics are excellent. Their players have been coming up huge, just putting away dynamite goals, man. Like dynamite goals in the sense of like, holy shit, I can't believe they did that. You know, it's just like it's been awesome. It's so exciting to watch, honestly.
Yeah.
I have Japan definitely winning this one.
All right. So one that we can agree on. So the next one here, Argentina.
We agreed on Brazil.
That was easy. But there wasn't an agreement. There was an acceptance of the situation. Argentina, Australia.
1,300 to 1 odds that Australia wins right now.
Yeah, I know the odds do not look good, even though Argentina hasn't looked good either. But I mean, now it counts, right? So
right, and the fact that Messi missed that penalty, but his team came and picked him up and helped him out, which he hasn't had really in the past several years. I think that Argentina is starting to get a little bit more belief about themselves in the face of pressure. And as fun as Australia is, like the fact that they're here and they have tremendous support. All the credit to them. Coming from their home country, but I think Argentina just has too much class. I think they're just too good.
I would agree, and I've always been partial. So in terms of the South American teams,
Dash, that's a good bet.
Yeah, money on Messi. Pessi. Pessi is no longer Pessi. Pessi is now Messi.
He makes a Messi out of it.
Yeah, Messi out of the Pessi. So man, that's such a dash stroke too, in his honor. Argentina does have too much class. Australia, similar to, I want to say, the North American teams, right? They put a lot of heart, a lot of hustle into the game. They just they don't have that next level of technicality.
Right. I think that's going to get them here. But hey, maybe. I mean, I don't know, how old is their lineup. I mean, again, nothing is a given in sport.
No, of course. These are predictions.
Right. But, nothing is a given in sport, in that just because they're here right now and they have some good young guys right now doesn't mean they'll necessarily be better when they come back next time.
Yeah.
Because there's no guarantee of it next time.
Any given Sunday, you never know.
Exactly.
You have to play the match.
Any given Sunday, but maybe these guys get they get a bit more experience under their belt, and maybe they find a couple more guys who really suit the team. And man, their forwards are old. Like all their forwards are like 30.
Yeah, no, I did.
Should they bring back golden goal?
I like it personally, especially when we talk about fixture congestion, and now you're putting in all these extended periods of play. But I mean, it's such an open-ended discussion. You can, I don't know. Do you have a quick think on this one?
For the sake of my hair color staying dark, I'll say no. For the thrill of it, yeah.
I like it. I personally like it.
No, it is. It adds an intensity to the game, but it should only be one 15-minute golden goal period. Just 15
Just
minutes.
the 15. Okay.
Yeah. Like just one 15-minute period.
And I mean, you never find the answer out. You look at the NHL, and they've stuck to one overtime method for a few years now, but they went through a transition period where every couple years,
they're trying something new. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, hockey's played 5 against 5, and so was overtime. We're now, it went to a 4 against 4 now, and it's a 3 against 3.
3 on 3. It's honestly, it's
exciting.
Interesting though. It's exciting. Yeah, it is. The game speeds up a little bit. It's a little bit more end to end because there's 3 guys.
Oh, the stretch pass down the wing, man. You have an explosive winger.
Yeah, man, it's fun,
man. So yes, I mean,
I wouldn't be opposed to it. I wouldn't be opposed to it at all.
If done properly, it can be done well.
You want to hear some crazy shit?
What's that?
Bring back the MLS style penalty shootout.
What was that? I don't know about this because I don't follow MLS that closely.
Yeah, that's right. There was back in like the old days of the MLS, a striker or a player would get the ball at the half mark and would dribble the ball down, and he had 20 seconds essentially to like put a shot on goal, and keeper would come out and try and stop it.
This definitely sounds like how do we market this to Americans?
Dude, exactly. It was exactly what it was. And it's ridiculous. And but dude, it's fun to watch.
That could be
some
fun.
Of that. It's basically like hockey level shootout, but like soccer.
And then when they realize, like, oh man, we're turning into a legit federation here. Like,
maybe we have to make ourselves look a little bit more graspable for the rest of the world.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's fun. I'll always say it's fun.
Something got to pull some footage on.
Oh, dude, definitely.
I mean, here we go. Let's move on. Here we got half the table left. Now, this one I'll go on a bit of my my anti-England tirade because they keep on drawing these easy groups, these easy knockouts. They're against Senegal. And all we're going to hear is all these prem heads going on about how great England is because they keep on going deep in all these terms. I mean, come on. Senegal, that's who you got after the group that you drew? This is ridiculous.
Yeah, well, you know.
You know where I stand.
I know. Look, I don't disagree with you. Look, there's nothing I despise more than a boisterous prem head who like their entire knowledge and understanding of the game of football revolves around the Premier League.
Yeah,
because it's pathetic if you ask me. But like, dude, man, open up your horizons and like, if you have a league that's literally spending 5 times more than what the closest competition is on player, like, give me a break. England is not convincing.
No.
Okay, they beat Iran 6-2.
Cool story.
And they beat Wales 3-0.
Cool story.
But
Wales didn't show up this tournament.
Dude, Senegal is tough, man.
They're a tough team physically, yeah.
Yeah, they're tough. I think they got very unlucky against the Netherlands because they only dropped those last 2 goals in like the last 10 minutes of that game. And they looked really strong.
But they're not very clinical either, though. They're like bulldogs.
They need their guy, and their guy's not there. Mane's not there.
Yeah, that is. I'm without Mane. Are they going to be able to break down? Because England plays with like that ridiculous 6-man defense, Gareth Southgate ball, whatever the hell they play over there.
It's rubbish. Rubbish. Nah, I think England will get through, but I think they're going to get decimated in the round after that.
Which would be either France or Poland. So that is the next one. Man, Poland have not looked very good at all.
Their keepers look damn good, though.
Tech has looked good, but their football is...
No, it's not great.
No, it's
not. They are honestly, in many ways, relying on Tech to keep them alive.
Well, like Tech is the best keeper, like his stats.
Mm-hmm. I think he's gonna win. He's looking to me like he's gonna win. I mean, how many goals did he stop? How many shots?
Well, he got 2 back-to-back, which has never happened in the World Cup.
Right, he got 2 back-to-back, and he stopped how many shots? Like 15 or like 12?
Oh, I don't know that.
Like in the last game.
The actual stats.
Wojciech Szczesny.
Yeah, we just say Tech. Like that's everyone calls him Tech because it's just his name is very difficult to say.
Right, Wojciech.
It's voice. It's like his name is actually like 2 names.
Yeah.
So Wojciech and then like Szczesny.
Right.
It's I don't know. I'm not Polish. It's really
it's tough. Yeah. Either way, he's the reason why Poland is. I'm with. No, you're good. You're good, Sarthak.
Yeah.
Tech is absolutely the reason why they're in the 16th.
Yeah. And that being said, again, you got cheat code Mbappe. Even Tech. Well, we know because we played PSG. We know Tech cannot stop cheat code Mbappe.
Well, I mean, let's be real. Mbappe's going to beat anybody. Like,
Exactly. Well, that's the whole
If
point.
Mbappe running one of your keeper, he's going to beat you 90% of the time. It's just it is what it is, you know. And can Poland's backline stop that from happening, or
No.
their midfield stop that? No.
They haven't convinced me that they could.
No. France is going to run right through them.
Which means France, England. Good luck, England, at that point. But we'll wait another week for that one.
I think Didier Deschamps is licking his chops right now.
He is. He knows that he's going to the semis. He's probably going to the semis.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on. Now, this is interesting just geographically in that sense, but the other dark horse, Morocco.
Yeah.
And Spain, I always put this caveat. I chose Spain a year ago, like basically after the Euros. I thought they would be the next team. They've had their ups and downs, I suppose.
Yeah.
But we do know that there's a history of the teams that win the cup don't necessarily have the greatest group stage.
Mm-hmm.
So that doesn't mean anything.
No. They got through. That's what they need. Look at that statistic. Whew. Tech, baby.
15 games, 20-plus saves in 3 games. I mean, yeah. Oh, my God, Gavi, that guy is different of great. I mean, and that's the thing. When the Spanish midfield is ticking, my God, watch out.
Right. And that's their bread and butter, right? Like, is their midfield going to beat Morocco's midfield? I don't know. Spain does have a striker issue, and that is true. And you can't.
But Morata has 3 goals in 3 games. Do they?
Morata's not the issue. It's everybody else. Like they put that 6 or 7 past Costa Rica, and but like most of the
Costa Rica's bad.
Was that they are. That's true. But like most of those guys that like score for them are midfielders or like wingers.
Yeah.
It's not their strikers. Like, where are the goals going to come from? They have to figure that out. Luis Enrique has got to figure that out.
But it's still Morocco, right? As well as they have done. Let's remember the group that they were in. The geriatric Belgiums, the just as geriatric Croatians,
right,
and the disappointed Canadians.
Right. And Morocco has a good team. I will not discredit Morocco.
But Spain is just a giant.
Spain is a giant. It's going to take Spain having an off day and Morocco having a great day.
And that's the thing. Spain is known to just have a bad day. So it could very well go Morocco's way. But if you run the numbers, I think the numbers will still point Spain.
Yeah. I think this could turn into a little bit of a dogfight though. So I would almost be curious to see if this game doesn't turn into, and the fact that they are like very close in region to one another. They're right across. They're a hop, skip, and a jump across the freaking Mediterranean. I mean,
yeah. So it's fun in that sense.
I feel like there's probably a little bit of like an unspoken cross the sea rivalry here.
Oh, probably. The problem is, yeah.
Yeah, maybe. I like Spain, but if I'm a betting man, I'm gonna check those Morocco odds, and I might throw a little sprinkle on Morocco. See what happens.
Yeah. If you're trying to play the odds, that would be a good one to maybe put your bets on.
But I think Spain is gonna win this one.
Yeah. So a bit closer, but we're still on Spain. So finally, Portugal and Switzerland, and man, we witnessed the Swiss just disappoint so many bigger teams, but they never have the staying power. And this is what gets me so upset. You have a team like Switzerland that plays so well,
right?
And they get Portugal, and England is there sitting against Senegal. Like, come on, this is not fair.
Yeah, throw them a bone.
I'd rather see the Swiss go for another round, just because of their style of play. The fact that they can have these guys that now play in the MLS still show up to these tournaments and let them know how to play.
Absolutely.
But it's Portugal.
Can I just say,
yeah.
how much of a disappointment was Serbia?
Oh, huge. Yeah. No.
Their defense is so bad.
It was really bad.
It got cut open by butter against two teams, not just one, two.
And you know what? I thought about it because I want to support them because of who they have.
Yeah.
But then I was like, okay, those are two players we have now going back to training camp.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm like, oh, that's great for Dusan because, hey, Dusan got his goal. He announced himself. And, my man, go back and get healthy. Get healthy. We need you.
Yeah, exactly. Because he does have that groin problem. So, yeah, let's get him healthy.
He's still nursing that. And Kostic just put a lot of minutes.
Yeah.
Take a rest. And he was feeding in beauties of crosses all game. Their defense is bad. I was like stunned how bad it was. Because you have some pretty deep, like they have that one player, Pavlicic, who's like a young defender who apparently had a good tournament, but I saw him get cooked.
Yeah.
Like Milankovic is a good defender.
Yeah, but he still got cooked.
Yeah, he got cooked, but some wasn't looking right. I think the management or the manager like misplayed them.
Yeah, the tactical formation.
I think Switzerland is not that deadly, and they got smoked.
But they're deadly enough, and yeah, that was the problem with Serbia is that they weren't clinical enough on the back line, and that was their undoing. Just like, I mean, ultimately it was. I mean, anybody that's not here, you can probably say it's their undoing, right? Not being tight enough in the back line.
I just had to say, man, Serbia really let me down. I thought for sure they were gonna be shooting somewhere, but yeah, that's true. Shaqiri and Xhaka do show up for tournaments. That is true.
Yeah, so there you go. And Dash did call that. Yeah, Shaq. I mean, he's calling it right now as I speak. So
I like Portugal. I do. I think they're deep. They have players who can do it. They have players like you gotta, obviously you still have Ronaldo, and he's there, and he's still putting goals away every so often.
Mm-hmm.
You have some really good guys in the front, like Diogo Jota is a good player. You got Ruben Neves in the midfield; he's a solid player. He's not having a great tournament though. He's been okay.
Yeah.
But I haven't been like super like high on his performances. But like through and through, this squad has a lot of depth. I mean, João Mario's having a great season. Fernandez is having a good tournament. Bernardo Silva is always a class player. Like,
and I think that's Portugal's biggest strength right now,
Right.
along with a lot of their other strengths. But they do have probably the best depth. Maybe Brazil as well, but
Oh no, they're
France-
deep.
But yeah,
deep,
they're
for sure.
just so deep.
And at the moment, it doesn't seem like their play style is ruining them yet. Their conservatism hasn't gotten to them yet.
Yeah. But you have to play
Historically.
conservative to maintain
That's true.
fitness through this long tournament, right?
Right, but their manager has been criticized routinely for being too conservative with a line that's way super. I mean, like almost like Southgate, like
Or
dude, you can-
Argentina.
Right.
I mean, there's a
Right.
few teams, right?
right, but like you look at that, depth, man. Like Leao, Felix, Silva, Ronaldo,
Yeah.
another Silva. As much as the guy bothers the shit out of me, like I said, Pepe. Like
Yeah,
it's,
so this
it's
is-
serviceable. Like he's just a warrior for them. I
So this
think
one's
it's
pretty
Portugal.
easy. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't really put much money on the Swiss. I
Switzerland
don't
will make
think.
it competitive, but
Yeah, it'll be an
Portugal will
all
win.
right game. Exactly. So, I mean, Spain-Portugal match, that would be super fun.
That's gonna be fun.
England-France, we're predicting. USA, Argentina. I put Netherlands, Argentina.
That's fine.
I mean, Netherlands, Argentina is a bit of a classic. I think they faced off a few times in the past.
yeah. That's right.
I don't know. That's probably maybe one of the lesser exciting ones, along with, I mean, whoever Brazil faces between Japan and Croatia, I don't think stand a chance.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think that's where Japan bows out. If they have to play Brazil. Just because, again, that Brazil side is so deep.
So good and deep. Yeah.
So good. Like, you just when they're clicking and ticking, man. Like, it's a scary side to play. And then Neymar is going to be, we're thinking Neymar is going to be healthy again. Yeah, I think they might rest Neymar at least for the Brazil, probably for the Korea match. Probably continue to rest him.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I mean, yeah. I mean, they
or
have the
maybe bring him
depth,
in.
so-
Yeah, bring him in for 20 minutes. Let him get his some reps in. But
Okay. And Sartak, he's asking about no, that wasn't it. About the Ronaldo interview. Are you talking about the Ronaldo interview from a couple weeks back?
when you talk about Manchester, when he was talking about like his experience there.
Yeah. I didn't really look into that one so much. It was just a play to get him forced out of the club. They weren't gonna release him, so he just went on Piers Morgan, talked trash, and I'm like, okay, there you go. That's all I looked into that. It was just a play to move on.
My honest opinion, and like again, I have no love for Man United at all.
Yeah.
Like obviously, in fact, I really don't like the club. But how did he not even with Juve's situation? How did he not look at that situation and just be like, that is a whole cluster? Why on earth would I want to go back there? Like I think Alex Ferguson Sir Alex Ferguson must have pulled on his heartstrings. Why on earth would you go back to Manchester? Manchester United.
He probably thought from a marketing perspective it was what was best for his brand.
Right.
And then he moved in that first house he moved into, that mansion. He complained because there was goats making sounds in the morning. Some stupid, because there's wildlife. He lived in farmland because he had the big villa out in the country.
Come on, man.
It's like, oh my God, it's ridiculous.
Look, it is what it is. I think he didn't know how good he had it. I really do.
Yeah, and I mean, these guys, we put them on a pedestal, but I mean, he's still just a
human.
footballer. Yeah, he's still
So
human.
fallible. As many people think that he's like this perfect second coming of Jesus,
Yeah.
or whatever you want to call him, or like or Muhammad or Gandhi or whoever you want to think, or the Buddha, whoever. The dude is a man, and he's a totally fallible man, and I think he made a mistake. It is what it is, man. Look at that guy.
Just because it was there. I've been
He's saying,
laughing.
hold up, I got
Yeah.
this.
And
By the way, really quick, 10,000% never a penalty. That foul on Messi, dude, what a bone they were throwing to Argentina there. No way is that a penalty. Dude makes a play on the ball, 100%. He's tracking the whole thing, and he just so happens to glance it and then end up running into Messi. The dude has every right to play that ball. Come on.
There's been there hasn't been too much controversy. Obviously, a bit. I've been fairly happy. I don't want to start picking apart penalties.
I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm not.
I mean, I know what you're saying because of the Canada game. I felt very aggrieved as well against Belgium.
Yeah. You guys
it sucks.
You guys got shafted. Sorry, you did.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know. That's why I try not to think. I'm moving on. I'm trying to be a better person.
Hey, I respect. Hey, all the respect to you, brother. That's for sure. Makes the miss funnier. Yeah, in a way. Hey, dude. I mean, Tech came up big.
Juve is a public. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
You sir. You.
Okay. Yeah, it's a publicly traded company owned by Exor Corporation, which, I mean, they own Fiat. They own Ferrari, like F1.
The Agnelli family.
Yeah, the Agnelli family. It is family owned, but it's publicly traded. So they have majority stake ownership in the company. But I mean, you can go on the Italian stock market in Milan and be like, yeah, I want a share of Juventus.
Right.
And I mean, if you want to go deeper than that, I would just tell you to go watch a YouTube channel that explains it. Because I mean, the stock market and all that, it's a bit in depth.
I would love to invest in Juve. What Juve market price?
Yeah, you'd have to get an account in Italy, open up
Yeah, that's the problem, is that I can't access it from my accounts. I gotta call up my family to be like, hey, can you invest some of this money that I have in Juventus? And they'd say Vafangu.
Yeah, they're like, what do you want that for? No, it's obviously complicated. You could probably get a banker in the States that would handle offshore accounts and invest in something, but then he's going to get a cut of it as well.
Right, and then I have to pay the banker.
Yeah, so
I ain't sitting on money like that. That's for sure.
Just invest in Twitter.
Yeah, right. Got it low right now.
Exactly. Twitter and Bitcoin. That's where you got to go. Yeah. All right, man. Well, that was another long live. Friday night. It's almost Saturday night now.
Yeah, right.
Man, with all the questions, is this point of football, would you guys mind being owned by a billionaire or a state? I think it just depends which billionaire or which state it is. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes they are the same or sometimes they're completely different.
Yep.
It just depends who you have.
Right. Absolutely. It all comes down to who the ownership group is.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm happy with our ownership group.
It's really not bad. You're looking at an ownership group that owns two of the best international sporting franchises in the world, or amongst the best, being Scuderia Ferrari and Juventus. I mean, they're in this position for a reason. So, not to say they're perfect and they've done everything right. Clearly, they haven't. No company of this size does. You have to be realistic. Whether it's a government or a corporation, there's dirtiness happening on the back end, whether you like it or not. I mean, that's the reality of life. Nothing is pure. You pick your devil.
Nothing is pure. Sad.
Yeah, the sad reality of life. Yeah. All right, man, I was trying to sign off. You got me into like some whole philosophical conversation now. But
yeah, man, always good.
There's always one way of making sure we don't continue on, and that's by playing the music.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. You want to do the sign out?
Yeah, man, absolutely. Be sure to stick around, keep watching out for all that good World Cup content, and of course Juve content, because we are the Turin Giants podcast. Absolutely. First and foremost, it's always fino alla fine, forza Juventus. Yeah.
Thank you everyone for this later stream on a Friday night. We will be back at you with more in the coming days. Stay tuned. Thank you for joining. Love you all. Catch you next time.